inspiring you to set the marketplace ablaze in partnership with an awesome and limitless God. This is the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast, and this isn't business as usual. Here's your host and Chief Fire Igniter, Shay Bynes.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. This is your host, Shay Bynes, and our goal here is to inspire you to operate your business completely yielded and in partnership with our awesome and limitless God. My guests today are a wonderful entrepreneurial couple that I have really enjoyed getting to know over the past about year and a half or so. My guests are OL and Sway Buckley, and they are marriedpreneur strategists that really help couples to thrive in business without sacrificing their marriage. Now, we talk about their journey as a couple with two very different personality types and how they have learned to get and stay aligned with God as well as with one another in business. And I don't want you to tune this episode out if you're not married, because frankly, there is much goodness in this conversation that will resonate with so many of you, even if you're not. So let's go ahead and get started. Listen in and enjoy my conversation with OL and Sway. OL and Sway, what's going on, you two?
What's going on?
Hey, how's it going? We're glad to be here.
Yes, so excited about this conversation.
Yes, it's always fun talking to you guys. You are both quite a delight, so we're happy to have you here on the podcast. Now, I don't get to have couples all the time. I think I can count on my two hands how many times we've had couples on the podcast. So this is always a special treat.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So thanks for coming together, and so that we could share about what this is like. It's like doing business in partnership with God. Yes, that's one thing, doing that on your own. But you guys are doing business in partnership with God and in partnership with one another on a day-to-day. So
amen, yes. Amen.
Yes.
Amen. All of that.
Okay. So first, why don't you just give a quick overview about what you guys do in business, and then I want to kind of dig in on some stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. So in business, we work together, obviously, as Marriedpreneur Life, and we'll unpack that. But also, let me mention that we have our own separate businesses as well. Mm-hmm. So we have independent businesses, and we have Marriedpreneur Life, which is another business which we work together.
Mm-hmm. And so for Marriedpreneur Life, that is the I would say the main business at this point that we work together, helping, equipping other faith-based married entrepreneurs to go from ideation to monetization, or if they are already flowing in that gift and understanding what they need to do, they often come to us to link high-level systems with laser clear strategy to build out a solid structure to live purposefully, powerfully, and profitably in sync. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And you all, as far as your target audience, it's not necessarily, if you guys are faith-based people, kingdom people, but you're talking to everybody. You don't have a targeted demographic of Christian couples, do you? Or do you?
No.
We do.
Do we?
Well,
we're working it out right now, you guys, live on the podcast.
Right.
No.
Right. We do have very precise messaging.
Yes.
Which, if you're going to work with us, actually before you work with us, you automatically know what our angle is, if I can use that phrase, or
sure.
from where we're coming from. And so, if our messaging is doing its job, then it is going to draw those who are of like mind and not draw those who are not of that like mind.
Yes.
That's not to say that we don't, work with those who may not espouse those same core beliefs that we do. That has happened. But by and large, our messaging is precise because, how can we deny the drivetrain for what it is that we do anyway?
Right.
So that being said, that in and of itself is going to resonate with some as opposed to others.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Were you going to say something, Sway?
No, he said it. He said it perfectly.
I thought he said that well. Okay.
Yeah.
So now talk to me, because you mentioned, so both of you have separate businesses, but you also have Marriedpreneur Life. So talk to me about the genesis of how God even led you into this work with Marriedpreneur Life. Like, where did this even come from? Give me the backstory.
It came from the throne of heaven. It came. We were not even planning to work together in this capacity. I don't think anything with married people, because we're like, we don't do that. We're not licensed. We're not counselors, And so when people talk about marriage, we're like, no. But often what we found out that the couples who were coming to us were really to get, like, they really want to glean from the systems that we started putting in place. And so when we were married, we started off, when we first got married, we are married. But when we first got married,
yes.
Let's make that clear. When we first got married, we were what we called a marriedpreneur type, which is spousalpreneurs. And that spousalpreneur means it's one spouse that is working the 9 to 5 while the other spouse is building the business, or maybe working a 9 to 5 is also building the business. Right. But it's one spouse that is really the driver for that business. And so I was and am, we're both now entrepreneurs, but I've been an entrepreneur like full time since the age of 16. And goodness. We started working, he would help me on projects even before we got married. And so coming into marriage at that point, it was just this flow that we had going on. But we knew we were supposed to do something on our own, but not really sure what that was. And at the time, he was in banking. And I'll let you share that story.
Yeah, I was working 9 to 5. And I say that figuratively. It was like 9 to 8. Right. 8 a lot of days.
Yeah.
So,
coming home.
So with that being said, I was in banking and was doing well, by the grace of God, and things were going very well.
Weren't you like an executive VP or something in banking?
No. So not quite there, but I worked my way up from an entry level retail position into what they would have called a PCO, which is basically means like a preferred client officer.
Okay.
So it's a aspect of wealth management, and so which required you to have licenses, securities agents, and all that stuff. So with that being said, during that time, I was winning awards because the bank that I was working for was based out of Spain, and so when they would do their
this is God.
When they would do their analysis of performance, they did it on an international basis. So wherever their footprint was, so we're talking South America, Europe, North America, the Caribbean, parts of the Caribbean, and so forth. So with that being said, I was being compared to or weighed against over 600 and something of my peers. So only the top 5% was able to get these awards. And so I was in that top 5%, which was a great time because they flew us to Spain, as Sway just said, and then they put us up. And it was just an amazing experience from Madrid to Barcelona to Toledo. We got on the bullet train. I ate rabbit for the first time. It was all kind of stuff. So
nice.
So when I came back from that awards trip, when we came back, there was promotion opportunities, recruiting started happening from other institutions. And in about a 3-year window from there, abruptly, I was let go from a bank that had recruited me or started courting me 12 months prior to. Let go for overperforming.
Wait. You got let go for overperformance?
But listen,
and really what it was I was stepping outside of my bounds.
Oh, I see.
I was
He had favor.
I was working
he had the favor
to get a hospital on board that I didn't know another department was working to get that same hospital and had been. So here it is. From the moment I started calling on them, within 2 weeks, I got the meeting with the CEO.
Oops.
I was told stand down.
My bad.
And when they said stand down, that's code for you go one step further and you're out of here.
That's right.
I didn't realize though, because I was in my 90th day window, in Texas being an at-will state, they can let you go without much of any reason at all. On my 90th day, I was released.
Wow.
And so that thrusted me into entrepreneurship. And,
there was entrepreneur.
No.
Well,
can I say something?
Go ahead. This is my favorite part of the story.
This is my favorite part because
I'm about to say it, but go ahead.
But you got to give context to it. Okay, so he likes to tell it. He tells it in one way. I tell it a different way.
Yeah,
I like to
give us all the flavors.
Right. So you have to know during that 3-year window that he was talking about, that from the award to being released from the job, he moved to about 2 different banks, I think, and he was being promoted. Like they kept coming. They would find him like, "Oh, you're the one. We want you. We want you." But every single time he would move, I said, we would always talk about this. I just feel like God is saying, no, like you're supposed to be doing something else or, working for yourself. I don't know what that is, but I don't think you should be taking any more promotions. Whenever, and he would say, you know what, you're right. And then whenever he would get ready to leave, promotion. Like clockwork. Clockwork. So this was the third time that he was being promoted. This one right here. Once. And before we had a heart-to-heart conversation, he was laying on the bed and I went and sat next to him. I said, okay, husband, you said now no more. Like last time you said no more, you were going to do it. And now you're getting promoted to this other bank. And so I was like, I just have to do this. I know people can't see me, but I had to take my phone out. Yes. And then I had to say, I have to record you. I have to record you saying that this is going to be your last time taking a promotion from the bank. Okay. Right? He said, okay, you can record me. So I was like, I need to have proof because I know I'm not going crazy. You're not going to gaslight me. I know I'm not crazy. I about this a couple of times. And so he was like, okay, you're right. That after that, 90 days after that, that's when it was just like, okay, no more. But I was like, God already.
So you were happy when this happened.
Yeah, I was like, we were just in his grace. He was giving us grace every single time. You kept saying, yes, that was just his grace because we already knew you weren't supposed to be going there. And for him to let us to continue on. Right. Goodness. And so.
Wow.
And I'll say this just to make it clear. I don't think that was merely reluctance or disobedience. Okay. I think it was providence. Yeah. Because I can't say that because I was reluctant or disobedient that God somehow didn't know that part. I didn't know that part. And so
he knows all things.
Absolutely.
You're right.
So the Lord knew that there was a emotional change that needed to happen in my heart, that it would not have happened the way that it did if I had not gone that route of reluctance / disobedience.
Come on with the word, OL. Come on.
So it actually worked out well for me because what it did was it proved that my identity was wrapped up in what I did.
It was.
Rather than who I am in him.
It was wrapped up.
And so, but that wouldn't have been known if I'd left on my terms.
Ah, that's good. That's really good. That's really good. Okay, so now after you left, so now you have been thrusted into entrepreneurship. So you guys were running separate businesses before Marriedpreneur Life showed up, or did you guys go into Marriedpreneur Life right away?
Yes, but Sway had much more momentum, systems.
I see.
Pattern, proof of concept. I had none of those things.
So now, go ahead. Go ahead. I
was going to say, there was also an opportunity.
She had articles of incorporation. I didn't even have that.
I did. So I was able to say, okay, why don't you try this? But that's how our systems got started because I didn't want to feel like this nagging wife or this helicopter wife, just like, okay, what are you doing? And I wanted to be like that, but I didn't want to be like that. But I needed to know like what's going on because the first 15th, they're going to come and they're going to keep going. And I don't know if you realize that the bank is not sending no check to the house at all on the first and the 15th. You have to do,
which is why I always took the promotion.
Yes, obviously.
Predictability of it all, right?
Oh goodness! But he'll tell you about a year prior to this, when God he already started speaking to our hearts about whatever this path was going to be, which we knew not, like what it was going to look like. But he already started speaking to us, and then around that time, we were at an event, and there was a gentleman on the stage. And I remember saying to my husband, I said, "You need to meet him. I don't know why, but you need to just go." Hem him up in the corner and just go introduce yourself. I don't know why. And then we found out that his mom knows the man. And so his mom was at the event as well too. And so it kind of all just came together very nicely. And
so we had a conversation in the hotel lobby and he had a specific problem pertaining to commercial real estate, and me being in banking, having lending as one of my strong suits. It wasn't to the tune of the number that he needed help with, because I had never done a singular 8-figure deal. And so there was a bit of intimidation there because of those commas. And so,
comma.
And so the more commas, the more important it is to not mess up.
Right.
So the pressure to sort of come through and get it right was was definitely there. I'll give you this fast highlight reel. So we're in Chicago, Sway and I are, and we're at a hotel, and the guy is like calling me, say, hey, here's what I need help, So we're working through me working with him, right? And so, but we have to have a contract in place. So here we are at a hotel, almost downtown Chicago, and I'm like, sweetheart, he needs me to send over my contract. I have no contract. I have no corporation.
First of all, the even point that he even asked for a contract, was like, oh, so this is legit. Like
right, you're you're not even sure how to do all the things. Oh, wow. You're just like walking this business out as things are showing up for you
in real time. And the gravity of it is gradually setting in. Like, oh, this is serious.
Yes.
So, long story short, you improvise, right? So my first entrepreneurial muscle in this way is being exercised. So I do what we tell people not to do. We go on Google, we print off a template of a contract. We put it into.
Well, I read through it and made sure it was
PDF.
It was
Escape, and we change out the language. And Sway knows that stuff. So my wife is plugging it in, and she's like, "Tell me what the numbers need to be."
What are we doing?
And I'm like, I don't even know how much to charge this guy. So I'm on Google.
Let's Google to see.
Trying to get the median, right? I'm looking for the median.
All we know is a whole bunch of commas. And we're like, okay, so what percentage?
And so I'm like, okay, basically what I'm reading online, this is the bracket. So here I am realizing I'm not proven in this area, at least not in this context in my mind. So when they give you this matrix, I'm skewing to the lower side of the matrix.
Sure.
Right. So let's say it said, 7 to 10%. I'm like 7.25.
Right.
Right. So because I don't want to sound too, whatever. Right. So
that wasn't bad.
So I put it on there and we put it into DocuSign. I think you had a DocuSign account or whatever, or maybe it was HelloSign, and we emailed it. Would you not know, Shay, he signed it?
And welcome to business, OL.
So at this point, I'm like, it is really real now. Yeah. Like it's carved in stone now, right?
One and popping.
What an entry point into business, though. Seriously.
And that was a year. That was a year before.
So check this out. So when I was terminated from the last bank I worked for, it was about 30, maybe 45-ish days.
Yes.
Do you know that deal closed?
Wow.
I tell you, it closed on time.
You were already being positioned ahead of time.
Because when you get let go,
being set up.
This is God ordering my steps.
That's right.
A year before, unbeknownst to me.
Yes, that's so good. I love it. What a really awesome way of kind of walking into business ownership. Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna fast forward us a little bit with you guys launching. You said you got an idea. You got a heavenly idea for to do this Marriedpreneur life thing.
Well,
it came through
a person,
people,
from heaven, but it didn't come directly to us because
it came through somebody else.
They didn't know what they were being used for.
They didn't know that. Right. So we thinking, I was thinking, I don't want to be the nagging wife. So let me just put some systems in place and then it'll be like accountability systems, but I won't call it that because I don't want him to think I'm trying to keep tabs, but I'm trying to keep tabs. Like I need to know what's going on because, if I needed to take, and I started taking on more contracts just to make sure like everything was going to keep going. And so, but I'm like, this can't be the norm. We need to figure out what we're going to do. And so I said, well, what if we just have these morning meetings? And then we started, and I said, I could share with you what I'm doing. You could share with me what you're doing. That's what I really want to know. And then we can like take it from there. And then we close out the day likewise. And so we're on the same page and we can just hold each other, moving forward. I just try not to use the word accountable at that time. And so today, though, those same meetings are what we use. And these are our legacy meetings. And now they have so much structure, even more structure than before. But we started implementing them at that point. because it was necessary for me.
Yeah,
my
sanity. You guys were living out the thing that you're doing now with other people.
Yes.
In your life. You guys were working those things out.
Yeah. So I didn't know that we didn't know that it was going to be for others. Like we just thought this is, we're just trying to stay married. We're trying to stay,
right.
We're just trying to stay in Jesus. And so we need some structure and some systems so we can like work through it. But I think, it's definitely been a blessing to us. Yeah. And, then when a friend of ours who was a couple of our clients, actually, because he started his other business.
I was coaching in personal finance for families, and they did that, and they knew Sway was on the entrepreneurial side of our coin. And so they was like, hey, when we're finished here, can we work with Sway? Or no, can we work with you and your wife? And I was like, well, when we finish my program, then I will absolutely escort you right on over to my wife, and she can help you with it.
And I would do the same thing. I'm like, oh, you want like money stuff? Well, after we finish my program, then I'll send you. They're like, well,
so you guys were operating in segments. So you guys were segmented at first.
Our clients knew about.
Yeah, they knew about stuff. Yeah. Because we would just make sure that we're always there supporting each other. They are new, but when they asked, we're like, no, we want both of you. And they're like, oh, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't.
That's so funny.
We have two separate LLCs. I don't even know what
at
that
this point. I got my articles of incorporation.
He had some money to get the LLC done.
Oh, I love the way the pieces were just like coming together, just like puzzle pieces for you guys, Okay, so now let me ask you, because now that you guys are working together with Marriedpreneur Life, operating under these same systems and all these things that you guys have put in place because you guys were doing it for their own survival and thriving of your own marriage as two separate business owners. Tell me, what does it look like? Because you guys have systems, so it'd be very easy to just be always just system dependent or always just, you could idolize the systems and the aspects of what you're doing. And then sometimes God shifts some stuff that looks a little bit different from your typical way you'd be doing stuff. Yes. So talk to me about what this looks like for you guys, like a partnership with God, doing business led by the Holy Spirit, operating under systems, but sometimes things get a little bit shaken up. Like, what are you guys, how have you guys been operating, and what do you guys experience?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I'll just jump in real quick and say this, and then I'll let Sway unfold this a little more, unpack this some more. But I think one of the things that we realized about systems is two parts. On one hand, they are essential, right?
Amen.
But on the other hand, we have to be mindful to not move into such rigidity that we don't realize, okay, the Lord is starting to pivot us in a different way here. Yes. And let me tell you, when you are a system person, particularly as my wife is, and by the way, no pushback here from systems because I believe in them, obviously.
Absolutely.
But it's important to look at systems almost like an anchor, or like what they would call the moorings on a boat. And it's that rope that connects it to the dock. Well, the system is the dock. But, as the currents of life come, there's going to be a little bit of give and go, some rocking of the boat. But the systems just remind you when we've drifted. Yes. And from where have we drifted?
That's good.
Well, it's not to say that they're supposed to be adhered to with such rigidity that there doesn't need to be any flexibility, but you have a reference point to say, okay, we've gone too far from the system.
Yes, that's super good. So Sway, since you are the systems gal, talk to me about what this is like for you, the tension of that and operating in what OL just described for you personally as you're doing business or, marriage, however it shows up for you guys.
Yeah, definitely ditto that, all that, because it is a process for me specifically. I'm going to speak about this for me, to daily go through like our schedule. So we still do our legacy meetings. We call them legacy meetings now in the morning. And then that's when we go over our top 3 for the day and go through that. But then we pray, go over some financial things for the house. We go about our separate ways. But for me, I'm constantly looking back at my schedule, saying, okay, what do I like? It's dictating per se, what I'm doing. And then there'll be times though, when I am led to do something different, right? It could be someone calling me that I'm like, I can't, but not right now. This is not, do you know what time it is? Like, this is my time to do content. Like,
you're not in this bracket.
You're not, like, we can't do that. Like, this is not, I'm going to have to, and there are days then that is the response, but then there are also days when I just have to be sensitive, like, okay, Lord, do I need to take this call? Like this, like, God, if I take this call, then you're going to have to do some supernatural. I mean, of course, God knows, like, he already knows, like, he knows everything, And so sometimes we can forget and think that, okay, if it doesn't go the way that I planned, then it's just not going to go and it's not going to happen. And so for me, it's really a constant surrender, daily surrender. But it's a tight, it's like, whoo, okay, it's a surrender, but it's like, you still are not off the hook though, girl. Like, you have to do what you need to do and not become lazy with it. That's, I think, in the back of my mind, like, don't become lazy. I don't want to be that slothful person that won't even put their hand in the mouth to eat. Like, I don't want to be that person in Proverbs.
There's something behind that, but we won't get into that. Maybe we'll have that conversation offline.
Right.
Yeah. So, so I think just for me, just making sure I really want to be a good steward of my time. I want, at the end of each day, I want to feel accomplished. But then I have to also ask myself, okay, what does that mean? Like, how do you define that today?
Yes.
And is it, if I'm not accomplished in the things that I expected to do, well, Lord, do you say it's accomplished? Like, did I accomplish what you wanted me to accomplish? If not, then okay, that's a no. But then if so, okay, then let me just thank God for that, and work each day. So it's just it's a constant back and forth for me personally throughout the day, just making sure that I am where I need to be. But also I'm learning how, because with the schedule also comes with the tasks within the schedule, like within the day, like the whole time blocking. And so I'm I enjoy routine and getting things done a certain way. Okay, this is the time block for sales. This is the time block for follow up with emails. This is the time block. And there will be some days, like if we're in the middle of a launch or something, where I'm like, the priorities have to change. Maybe I'm not going to do quote unquote sales today like this. It's going to look like this, or I won't even do it because I really need to focus over here and resolve within myself that it is okay. I had to do it from the beginning of the day. It is okay.
It's like, it's a trust in God.
Yes. It is. It is okay, Sway. It's okay. And like, I'm not some, slothful person that just didn't get it done or just underachiever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not her. I'm not that person. It is okay. I'm going to focus on what's a priority for me right now. And that could look different from yesterday. That's right. And so just giving myself that grace in the middle of the day. Like in the middle of like when everything is everything. And what does this look like right now? And the question I like to often ask myself, and I'll share with my husband as well too, I'm like, is this the most efficient use of my time right now? And then saying, okay, Lord, well, this is what I'm thinking. Is this what you're thinking? Like, are we thinking the same thing?
Efficiency the same way you're defining efficiency.
Yeah, so just it's a process, to have it, but to know that I'm also submitted to the one who gave me time, who gives me time, and who holds my time. And so, it's a back and forth
of walking that out
daily. Yes. I was thinking
So I have a question. So when you guys came together with Marriedpreneur Life, and you guys are making decisions, I mean, it's one thing to be by yourself making decisions around, our focus, strategy, and all of those things. But how do you guys really come together in agreement on those things? Is this like, hey, do you ever have a situation where, you've both been praying about something, but one of you has a perspective, one of you has another perspective. And then if that's the case, then what do you do and how do you resolve that so that you're on one accord as you move forward as partners in business?
Yeah. So,
or maybe y'all never decide on anything.
I don't know.
No.
We are so different. Okay, we are so different.
Yeah. I think it's important for us as married, first of all, as being married, obviously, and then being marriedpreneurs, is to not look at it like the way I am or the way I'm wired or whatever my perspective is or the way she is and the way she's wired and whatever her perspective is right. So what am I saying in a word? I'm saying humility.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. The second thing is, I would say to that is, we have learned, and it has not come easy. There's been a lot of post-reflecting, after, or sometimes even during those times of disagreement, that I have to recognize that agreement doesn't mean I agree. Agreement.
Unpack it. I know what you're saying, but unpack it.
Agreement means I trust you. So even if I disagree with your perspective or angle or approach, there's these points where I yield and say, you know what? I don't think that's right, but I'm going to trust you on this one. Now, there has to be a little clause in your back pocket that says, if you were right, the one who's yielding to the other person's perspective, don't come out with the "I told you so" stick and then club the other person.
Right.
Okay? Because we have to give each other range to be wrong.
That's good.
So agreement doesn't mean I agree. Agreement means I trust. Now, how did we come to that understanding? I mean, first of all, it's an understanding we have to constantly remind ourselves of every single day.
Yeah.
But it came through much of each trying to sell the other person so much on their perspective and not being willing to back down and trust one another.
That was a whole word.
What do I say?
That was a whole word. I was like, that was for somebody right there. That
I don't know what that was for.
that whole thing. I was like, I'm gonna let that marinate for about 10 seconds.
Right. Just let it sit. Let it rest.
How do you say?
Let that rest. Say la.
Air it out.
Man, that is so good. And so you guys got to that point by actually walking that out, and then having the disagreements, having to come to those points and those tensions to arrive there. And now you guys get to help other people. Now it's like, if you guys don't listen, we're telling you this is what works. Now, if you guys want to go through 100 times and doing it the other way, if y'all want to do that, that's on you. However, we will tell you, we have already done this.
Right.
And having this mindset and perspective and approach concerning how you engage with one another, it works. Give it a shot. Give it a try. You might like it.
I'll say this too. Sometimes, there's an ebb and flow of the hot hand, and I'm trying to use, I'm trying to teach myself to use something other than sports analogies, but give me grace on this one.
Okay.
It's like, like a basketball team, right? So like, I think about Steph Curry and all the other players that are on the Warriors. And so sometimes the person who normally has the hot hand doesn't have the hot hand this week. And you have to acknowledge when the other person has the hot hand. So say we're in a sales engaging type of a thing. You know what? If the closing momentum has sort of Sway's way, hey, I yield to it, even if that means sales might be my department.
Makes sense.
Sometimes it happens that way. And if the content and the copy, this month seems to have swung my way, and that may be her normal aspect or come under her auspices or role within the business, hey, just go with the person.
Good.
Just because you remember, you're a team.
Yes.
Do you want to be right or do you want to win?
Say that again. Just in case they didn't hear you, because it kind of slipped through.
Oh, is it?
Say that one more time. Oh, well.
Say one more time.
Do you want to be right or do you want to win?
Come on. That's good. That's really good. I love that. So what is for the both of you, what has been the biggest stretch for you guys in faith as you've been, building a business together? What's the faith walk look like? What's the challenge, the stretch? What's that looking like? Maybe you're right now, or since you guys started this, the thing that stands out the most.
Tales from the trenches?
Tales from the trenches. Bring it on.
Do you mean, because that's kind of a layered question. Do you mean like in the spiritual aspect of what that faith piece looks like individually for us, or would it be more so in the business area, looking like what are some of those areas
as it connects to your business, right? It all is mixed together in one beautiful pot, because all the stuff we have stretches within business are therefore connected to stuff that's going on with us internally most of the time.
You know what?
Sometimes it just feels like stretch.
Absolutely.
It just all stretches.
And I appreciate this question because this is something we talk about often. Okay. So I'll just say it this way, right? So for all you marriedpreneurs, all you folks who listen,
aspiring marriedpreneurs,
hear ye this, okay?
Carol did.
Right. So with all the systems, the many systems that are within the business, right? I'm talking about the things that the Lord has opened our understanding to and really just given us understanding on, that we know that he gave us understanding on, right? So it's like, okay, I know this is the understanding of the Lord, right? Yes. So you can have all those systems. I mean, pick an aspect of business. Let's just put all of them together, okay? So we're talking about communication systems. We're talking about marketing systems. We're talking about working with team members and those systems. We're talking about how content gets created, how it gets published, how it gets all of that, right? Edited, proofed, and all that. So you put all these systems together, sales and serving your clients and the whole 9 yards. You put all those systems together. It is possible to do all of the systems right and nothing seems to work. Mm-hmm. And here's the humbling fact of it all, right? Now, let me pause and say, put an asterisk here. It doesn't mean don't have the systems.
Have them.
Because that would be negligent.
Right.
I'm not promoting negligence in business, right? But what we're saying is that even with all the systems, and you could be firing on all pistons, and the Lord will have these times and seasons where he will show you it is not by might nor by power, but it's by
by your systems, but by my spirit.
And listen, as believers in this space, as kingdom-minded entrepreneurs within the marketplace, that is a real reality. That is a true and a biblical reality that we mustn't lose sight of, lest we become arrogant. Ooh. And if I can just be very, very frank and say that, that's real, because it happens from time to time.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And that's not to say that we don't tweak and we don't make adjustments, because we do. Yes. We review the system. Mm-hmm. But there's always this looming understanding that, you know what? If God doesn't breathe on it,
you need to breathe on it.
Let me tell you something. I say it all the time. You can sow all the seeds you want, but unless he makes the sun shine and cause the rain to fall,
yes,
you ain't gonna get no harvest.
You just have some dry seeds and some dry ground, and that's it.
So, bottom line, you got to trust him.
That's good. Did you want to add anything to that, Sway?
I mean, that's it. It's a humble, and it's just like, okay, Lord, well, I'm just grateful. That's the name. All I say is I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful.
Now, you know what?
I'm grateful for the open doors. I'm grateful for the closing, but I'm grateful. I'm just grateful. And he does above and beyond. But there's been a heart change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because then you see it differently, and you see just his hand on it. And I'm like, Lord, I just want to remember you. That's it. Like, I just want to remember you, and all of this. Business is a tool, business tool for a means to an end, and just keeping that in its space.
There's something that he talks about, and I would ask her to mention it. What about even when you're doing things according to the system, and you sense the Lord leading you a different way, you say, you know what, we're going to do it this way, even though this is the way the system prescribes. And so just the trusting of God, even in the middle of doing business. And you're like, you know what? We normally would do it this way.
Yeah.
But I really sense we're supposed to go this. And then you realize, yep, the Lord was leading you that way.
He does. He's like all up in your marketing. Like, he will be.
Give me an example of him all up in your marketing and how this played out.
It can be as something as seemingly simple as content creation. Right? It can be, okay, because, content is what people consume.
Yes.
And what are we? And so my prayer is always like, Lord, I want to be able to share. And usually I'm the one primarily over content. He'll do content when I say, okay, I need you to do like a husband's perspective or do this or we'll do, you know, but usually I'm going to like plan it out. And so I'm like, Lord, I want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that is going to speak to the heart and to the spirit of those who are reading or watching. I want them, they don't even need to know why it resonates, but you send them, God. Like you resonate with their hearts and because you created them anyway. You're the creator of all flesh. So you know who they are. We don't even know who they are now, but you know who they are. And so help us to speak clearly to the hearts and the spirits of those who you've called for us to work with. And even if they don't work with us, but those who you've called for us to impact in some way, planting a seed, watering a seed, whatever, but you're bringing the increase. And so, there have been times when, you know, in my training, we are definitely investors in coaching and, you know, business coaching and personal development. And so we're given systems and we're given
blueprints, formulas, the whole.
All the things.
And they're proven.
And they're proven.
And they're true. They've got stats to back it.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, we'll be like, okay, we're investing in this. This is what we're doing. We're going to do what they tell us to do. That's what you're supposed to do. But then there'll be times and I say, you know, Lord, well, make sure, help me not to get so caught up in what they're saying that I miss what you're saying.
Yes.
You know, there'll be times that, you know, for example, if we're told we're supposed to post a certain amount of times a day, right? And then I maybe let's just say it's 3 times a day. And let's just say that I already have it laid out and everything, like I have it scheduled, or maybe not scheduled. I usually go through right before just to make sure it's really real to me. So I'll go through it and I'm just not feeling it. But I'm like, Lord, but if I don't do it now, then it's not going to be 3 times. And maybe it's going to be 1 time this day. Like, and then I'm just going to be such a failure. I'm not even following.
I'm so lazy. That soundtrack starts. I don't want to be lazy. I'm slothful by posting once instead of 3 times.
And then God, he catches me. He's like, girl, calm down. Like, you know, sit down somewhere. And he's like, are you going to trust me? Like, are you going to trust me with this post? Like, are you going to trust me even if it's just 1 and not 3 or 5 that you set out to do? And I'm like, I'm going to trust you, but can I? He's like, okay, it's your choice. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to trust you. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to even look at it again. I'm just going to wait till tomorrow. And usually I'll do that. Like, and I know I'm supposed to go back and, you know, respond to people. But I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, I just need to trust you, Lord.
Yes.
I mean, I'm always like, I need to trust you, Lord. But sometimes I actually like don't look at it in that trusting.
Right.
So anyway, and even recently, we were telling you about some clients that recently we brought on.
Yes.
High ticket clients. And when I tell you that we did not search them out, when I tell you, and it's usually the wives who will connect with me, because I'm usually the nurturer, and I'll connect with people in the DMs. Hey, where are you from? What do y'all do? I just like to meet people and what are y'all working on? Maybe we can collab, or if it makes sense. This person, that wasn't even the situation. She, a year ago, like last year sometime, I think she alone, not even with her husband, came onto one of our webinars that we were doing. And she kept saying, okay, we need to work with you. We need to work. But, you know, they didn't move at that point. So I just left it alone. I was like, okay. Recently, though, she found me on, I guess she reconnected because I hadn't heard from her in a while. And she said, we need to talk ASAP. And I was like, okay, my husband, he's ready now. We need to do that. I'm like, okay. And that's usually how it goes. It takes the husband a little, while to be like, okay, who are these people? I don't know, Well, let me tell you, when we got on a call with them, this is real, like true story, maybe like last week, and oftentimes, not every time, but we'll listen or fill it out. Oftentimes we'll start off with prayer on a call. If we're just meeting the couple or just, we just kind of level the playing field and just like, okay, Lord, what are you saying? And so, and usually my husband, he'll wait for me to cue him to say if we're going to pray or not. Like, cause sometimes I'm just like discerning, like, cause I don't, just discerning. Cause I know the wife, right. And I know where she
has a rapport that's already there.
And so we're like, people are listening, can't see, but if we're like talking to them and we're like, okay, and I just do something like this.
Yeah. You have a little hand signal.
He's like, okay, let's pray. Like, and then so usually that'll be the cue. So oftentimes it's going to be that. So this particular time we prayed, and then the husband was like, you know what? I know I just met y'all, and he had to call us. He had to get on the Zoom call from his car. And so he's in the car, she's at the house, and he said, I just knew when my wife told me that we need to get on a call with this couple, and she's brought many other coaches to me, and I was like, well, I don't know, what do they believe? What are they talking about? Because I don't want anybody speaking into to my, and I get that, and I respect it. And he was, she woke up the other day and she said, the Holy Spirit said we need to work with them. We need to get on the phone. I don't even know what it's for. It may just to come on the call and to pray. I don't know, but we need to work with them. We need to get on the call. He said, when she says the Holy Spirit says this, then I just say, okay. And so he gets on with us, and we're just like, all right, Lord, that was nothing that I did. There was no post that she saw. There was nothing that connect. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the Holy Spirit told her.
That was completely opposite.
That was completely opposite.
That's right. Yes.
And it's like they bought right into the highest program that we have. I'm like, okay, that's it? Okay, let's go.
Yes. Yes. That's good. I love it. This is super good. I love you guys. This is so good. I appreciate, like, there was like 4 sermons in this one episode. I just, after the episode, Phil and I go and share some of the nuggets and stuff like that. And I already know Phil's going to have fun with this. He's going to be like, so we got 4 sermons from this episode. Let's talk about it. That was super good. I know you guys have some kind of event coming up, a virtual event or something coming up for couples. So why don't you share that? And so so people know how they can connect with you and connect with this event you guys have going on.
Oh, sure. Thanks so much. We are going to be hosting we call it a 5-day challenge, Love and Launch challenge. And this particular challenge is for those couples who they know that God has called for them to stop playing around with the thing that he's called for them to do and stop using it as a hobby or just a sometimey business, but really to launch all the way into it, even to the place and getting a strategy in place to do this purpose or the thing that he's called them to do on a full-time basis. So during this challenge, it's very unique and specific to those married entrepreneurs. They don't have to be in the same business at all. It could just be one main person, but the spouse is there to support, or they could be working in the business together, or they could have individual businesses, but they know that they are building the same legacy. So during this challenge, it's really an opportunity for us to walk these marriedpreneurs through the process of creating out their marriedpreneur launch strategy, where they can then see how to replace their 9-to-5 income with the thing that God has called for them to do. So that's the Love and Launch Challenge, and more details are over at loveandlaunchsecrets.com or over on marriedpreneurlife.com.
Very good. Oh, well, Sway Buckley, I appreciate you both so much for joining and just sharing. This has been super good. So thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
I love me some OL and Sway. Such a fun conversation with them. I have with me Mr. Phil Bynes, CEO of Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur, and my beloved husband. What's going on, Phil?
I'm doing well. And you always do such a great job of honoring me, Mr. Phil Bynes, and all the lovely platitudes. I thank you, my dear wife. This is my beloved wife and who I am well pleased with.
You're hilarious. All right, let's talk some of your takeaways from our conversation today with OL and Sway.
Well, I tell you what, OL and Sway, they brought some fire and
they did.
And I think OL did a good job of like dropping a bunch of mics, so I don't have to get too deep into the weeds with that. But one of my takeaways I like to talk about is the fact that God will allow us in our disobedience to keep walking in it until we come to a place where he can uncover what's really in our heart. And then from there, he'll deal with us so that we can have wholeness. We saw that in the example of him in his job and keep taking the promotions, and so that was interesting.
It's like that. It's a testimony of his grace yet again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So good. So good. What else?
The mic drop point at the end of the interview where OL was talking about you don't have to agree with someone to be in agreement with them, specifically your spouse. I thought that was very powerful. It just means, he said that it basically means that you trust them. You're saying that you trust them when you're in agreement with them, not necessarily that they're right.
That was a whole word for real.
Mm-hmm.
That was super good. I really feel like that by itself is so helpful for couples that are walking this out, because even if one person is the business owner and the other isn't, or they're both business owners working two separate businesses, or it's, a couple that's both working in the same business, regardless of whatever your scenario is, you're both in business. Yeah. So you're walking this thing out together, regardless of whatever the scenario is. So, and then when you think about the word where it said, like, how can two walk together unless they agree? Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really great way of framing that, so that we don't have to believe that agreement is all about we both agree on the same thing. And it's also not as simple as saying, well, we disagree to disagree. It's not that either. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we do that and there's no, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. And it's like, yeah, that's not the ticket either when we're walking this thing out as a couple. So yeah, that was good. It was funny that we had that moment. I wanted to have a mentoring moment, but I didn't because that's not what the time was for. But when Sway had shared multiple times about his whole thing about not wanting to be lazy, there's that whole tension. And we run into this a lot, as I've been sharing the Grace Over Grind message, that is one of those little stronghold areas that, holds a place in our heart sometimes, especially depending on the circumstances of which you grew up or the circumstances around you or whatever. You can have these kind of thoughts in your head that aren't truth. And so then you'll end up grinding because it's the antidote for you not feeling like you're lazy. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're not lazy. You're walking this thing out with him, doing the things on the heart. It's like, you're not lazy. Like, we don't have to operate in the fear of being slothful or lazy. Like, when we're walking this thing out with God, I thought that was such a great moment. But it's the adventure. It's the journey. It's the walking things out. It's going from one level of glory to the next. And he just kind of deals with all of those little things. You got some people, it's the opposite for them. Like, they tend to be on the lazy side, or they tend to be just like massive procrastinators, doing nothing and waiting on God to do something out of nothing, basically, right? And just waiting around. Although I do find in the entrepreneurial space, those people are way fewer. Something about the nature, the very DNA of someone who desires to do business or has that on their heart, there's a certain drive within them to do. And so we don't run into that as often, but I think it's important for us to discuss it because it happens on all sides. But we can really walk this thing out and work by the power of his grace and at the pace of his grace without fear of that kind of stuff that puts us in a mindset of the grind.
Yeah, and it was beautiful to see that Sway had an awareness of it.
Yes.
Right. And it's something that she is definitely working through with the Lord. You can tell by how she talked about it.
That's exactly right.
That's good, because I think people need to be able to see every every aspect of it being walked out, every degree of it being walked out.
Yes. And that's what I love so much about this podcast too, is that it's not, this is about the story. This is about the becoming, the unraveling, the revealing, like all of that. Everybody's story is different. Everyone's in a different place in their stories, and God's just working on so many aspects of our hearts and our minds as we walk this out with him. And I think that they were a beautiful example of a couple who is walking this thing out in business in partnership with one another, in partnership with God, and taking the breakthroughs that they've experienced as a couple that was working two separate businesses, and now then being able to impart into other couples so that they can thrive together, as a family unit, and doing this thing in business and not be working in opposition of one another, but working together in a way that God can truly bless and increase that thing.
Yeah. And especially when you listen to them, you can hear, and they even say they're very different personalities.
Yes.
So like, if very different personalities can work together in harmony, then, you got no excuse.
Yeah. So listener, you can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
The power of his grace. Amen. All right. Before we go, I just want to encourage those who, we always talk about this kingdom-driven entrepreneurship basic training, the 101. It's that fire starter school. If you really want to begin to make these shifts in a really practical way, mindset shifts, heart posture shifts, walking this thing out, doing business in partnership with God, we encourage you to make sure you take advantage of Fire Starter School. You can do that at kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com/Fire Starter School. It's about 3 hours of mentoring and teaching in this area that you can practically apply to your life. It's also available to you at the price of your own choice. God's idea, not Shay Bynes. So when you go over there, you just head over there to kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com/Fire Starter School. Prayerfully choose your price and make sure that you not only listen, but re-listen and begin to make those shifts. And wherever you are, God meets you right there and helps you go from one level to the next. Mr. Bynes,
yes,
anything that you need to say as we close? Or are you good?
Yeah. Share it with a friend. Share Fire Starter School with a friend. Have a friend read it so that when you can go back and talk to them and you can be like, oh man, it's so awesome. And you can come from the experience of someone that's been doing it longer, right?
Yeah.
And it'll make you feel good about yourself. Oh, sorry. That was carnal, right? Okay. All right. Forget everything I just said then. Or,
that's hilarious.
or chew the good parts and spit out the bones.
But truth be told, I have been hearing testimonies of people who have been doing Fire Starter School with friends. And so they have been doing that together. So they've got themselves like a little group of almost like, people get together to do small group studies and Bible studies and stuff like that. There's been people that gather together to walk through Fire Starter School together. And I think that's awesome. So it's always awesome when you can grow together with others. So there was some goodness in there. We did have to spit out some of the bones okay. there, bro. But
you were able to point out some of the collaborative aspects. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's why I have you for, because you're Shay Bynes, Chief Fire Starter,
Chief Fire Igniter, babe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chief Fire Igniter.
Okay, we better end this now, you guys. We look forward to being back with you again next week on the next episode of the Kingdom Driven Podcast. Take care and God bless.
Thanks for joining us on the Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we encourage you to subscribe and spread the word. And don't forget, you can gain access to even more resources, plus a thriving community of fire starters by visiting our website at kingdomdrivenentrepreneur.com.